Welcome to Comic Shop News. I'm Dan and doing a short little story time / review discussion of the Halloween comic series from Chaos Comics published in 2001. This issue is called Halloween 2, The Blackest Eyes, written by Phil Nutman with Mickey Yablans, who was involved with the original Halloween, and art by Jerry Beck. This series, fascinating because it ties together the original series, the Thorn series, and the H20 timelines together. Did in a rather interesting way, too. This was published in 2001. So this takes place right after the last issue in Haddonfield, Illinois, with Michael Myers' head on fire, flying out of Tommy's window and disappearing. And Tommy saying, "You son of a bitch, wherever you are, I'm going to find you and finally kill you." And he moves on. He's like, crap, the diaries, they better not be damaged. And he finds that they're fine. He's getting his gun cocked, reloading. And he's like, right now, I need to find you, Michael, while you're weak. There's only one place you'd go, home. And outside the Myers house, we meet Richie Castle. And for 24 years, the Myers house has haunted Richie Castle's dreams, leading endlessly back to the nightmare of when he met the boogeyman. We have the flashback from Halloween 1, where they're taunting Tommy. Tommy falls on the pumpkin. And he's going to get you, Tommy. Yeah, the boogeyman's going to get you. And it goes into, saying the Halloween afternoon, Richie didn't know he'd met the devil in disguise, but as he looked into those eyes, the blackest eyes, he knew evil had come to Haddonfield, Illinois. By the following morning, when people were dead, Richie knew that evil now called Haddonfield its home. Richie's pretty much overweight, drinking. Find out the 24 years have not been kind to Richie. He never made it out of Haddonfield on the football scholarship. His attempt to be a success in the real estate business went sour during the market bust. He lost his wife, his job, his house. Tonight, Richie's plan is to burn down the Myers house. He goes in, he's splashing gasoline everywhere, and he hears a noise. And then it zooms out to this picture of the house, and a scream, and then the onomatopoeia of blam, blam, blam. Nearby, we have Lonnie Elam and their friend. And they're looking for Richie. They're like, "Where's that loser? Yeah, Richie better not have slipped out on us with that weed. Hey, look, it's that jerk Doyle." They slam into Tommy Doyle's Jeep. He's like, "He almost killed us." And they start shit with Tommy. Still the same bully shit. Tommy pulls a gun at them. Lonnie's like, "Little man needs a big gun, huh? I was just kidding, Tommy." And he's like, "I don't have time for your crap, Elam." And Lonnie's like, "Come on, you pussy, let's do it, man to man." And Tommy drives off, and we see Tommy comes in. He sees Richie We see Richie all shot up, and we find out it's Sheriff Brackett. He vowed he'd never return to Haddonfield after Michael Myers slaughtered his daughter Annie and her friends 22 years ago. And in his head, he's like, "Where's that freak Myers? He must be in town somewhere. Goddamn, Richie, now I'm going to have to get rid of your body." Tommy sees the body getting carried out and follows it. And as Brackett's putting the body in the trunk, Tommy realizes it's Sheriff Brackett. And in the shadows, we see Michael, and the mask is melted from the fire. And in a pumpkin patch outside of Haddonfield, Brackett is burying Richie, and Tommy actually reveals himself, and they see Richie's body. Lonnie goes to the house, and him and his friend Keith, and they see all the blood in the Myers house. They're looking around, In Brackets, then, back to Tommy and Brackett, he's telling the story of how Haddonfield was one of the earliest towns founded in the Midwest. The name is derived from Haddon, meaning cursed. The devout Protestants who escaped religious persecution in England weren't the only ones. Some of those contemporaries of the infamous Cotton Mather were behind their pious pilgrim faces, actually worshippers of a far older religion, Druids. During the New England witch hunts, a group of clandestine Druids led by one Murphy Myers headed west, fearing for their lives. Myers was a direct descendant of a cursed bloodline. The curse of Samhain, Samhain, was placed upon one of Myers' descendants nearly 2,000 years ago. Every generation of Myers was cursed. While the women's folk were touched with visions and sometimes the ability to read minds, the firstborn male of each generation carried the seed of Samhain's evil, Samhain. Then we go back to Richie and Keith. Lonnie's screaming, "Richie, Keith, quit fucking around, guys. I know you're here." And you see something bounce by him, and it's Keith's head. And Myers comes in and just eviscerates Lonnie right in the stomach, up in the air. And then we jump back to Tommy and Sheriff Brackett. And they start talking how most of Haddonfield's leading townspeople are direct descendants of those founding Druid fathers, but not us Bracketts. My grandfather moved to Haddonfield in 1901. So how do you know this? I was a cop. Remember, cops investigate. In order to appease the gods, the Druid priests held fire rituals. Prisoners of war, criminals, the insane were buried alive by observing were burned alive by observing the way they died. They believed they could see omens of the future. Michael was never meant to live for 3 generations. The Myers family had been blessed with peace. None had killed, but that night, Halloween 1957, they knew the evil had returned stronger than ever. Audrey Myers was tortured by an agonizing 3-day labor. Michael was born at 11:57 p.m. that night. He was the first of the cursed Myers offspring to be born on that day, as if the curse was waiting for a vessel to carry the ultimate evil. Michael's body may have entered the world that night, but his soul did not. He was stillborn. But that black-hearted soul did arrive as night became day, the Day of the Dead. He was officially pronounced alive at 12:06 a.m., and the curse was fulfilled. Michael displayed no extraordinary effects from his dark beginnings. He even sang in the church choir with my younger brother, but the leaders were not so easily lulled into a false sense of peace. They waited, watching for the fury of Samhain to be released. Like a boil, the bubble burst on Halloween night, 1963, when Michael killed his sister Judith. Poor, sweet, sick Judith, my ex-girlfriend. You knew Judith? In the biblical sense, yeah, me and half the high school football team, as it turned out. I dated her for a while before I went away to college. Poor fucked up kid. I heard rumors Mr. Myers was abusive physically. Yeah, he was a disciplinarian. Sexually, maybe Judith was an info, and there was some strange bond between her and Michael. Maybe he killed her out of jealousy. I never learned the truth about that, but Judith's death led me to becoming a cop. And they talk about, how did you uncover the other stuff? Historical research, cop work, and Loomis. After Annie died and he saved Laurie Strode at the hospital, he gave me his diaries, his private diaries. You have them? When Sam died, I received a package, his secret diaries. And as they're burying, the Cult of Thorn show up wearing their robes, and Mrs. Blankenship reveals herself, saying, "Thomas Doyle, you have meddled enough in our affairs, and you, Lee Brackett, you should know better than to desecrate this sacred place. But no more. Blankenship, you old witch, you've been helping Michael all these years, take them." Tommy's hit in the head with a shovel. And then at the old Myers house, it's now Halloween. Michael's in the house just walking and watching. Kids are out on the street and they are trick-or-treating. There are some kids dressed up as Slipknot. And Michael is walking. Mrs. Blankenship is talking to another. "I see no point in killing them. The old ways don't work. I'll be a party to no more sacrifices. They know too much. Brackett won't talk. One work to the state police and he'll spend the rest of his life in prison for murder. And the Doyle boy has a history of mental problems. Who would believe him? We cannot take chances. They do not belong. It's him we should be worried about. We can't control him, but we can contain him. And a girl is in a car dressed as kind of a clown. And she's telling her boyfriend, hurry up, don't keep me waiting. And then the boyfriend comes back in the car, or what she thinks is, she says, take off that stupid mask and kiss me. And a knife comes out and stabs her. Walks out as the boyfriend's coming over. And he's like, Jackie, hon, you sick? And a priest now is down saying, you must go. You know where he is, don't you? We've got to stop him. You can't stop him. They think they can control him. The fools, I'll be a party to it no longer. And as the priest's talking to them, Michael comes behind and shoves a blade through his heart. And then Brackett's just saying, like, oh my God. Tommy hits Michael with a chair, WWE style, asking Brackett to help. Michael once again gets a lantern thrown at his face and he's on fire. Mask is burning again. And then Tommy hits it with a fire extinguisher. There is some wires loose and running water, and Michael gets electrocuted. Brackett is physically injured, and the church explodes. And then the Cult of Thorn show up, and he's like, what? You know? And we see 3 months later the Haddonfield Gazette saying local man convicted of murder, arson. And Tommy's in the loony bin, and he's saying, I don't care what it takes, whatever I have to do to get out of here. I know you're still alive, and I know you'll be back, Michael. And that is the end of that. This one I didn't think was as strong as the first one, but I love seeing the early Michael days. I did like in this one that they tied together the Cult of Thorn and bringing back, Lonnie, Richie, Brackett. Some things we might see in the Halloween Kills, not necessarily in this way. This one I'm probably going to give a 6-2. I didn't love it. It was good, but not great. Again, though, once the third issue we get to it, it ties it all together. There is a bit of a shock to it. Get to that when we get to it. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for joining me in my little celebration of Halloween here and talking about these great comics. Thank you for watching, and if you can find these cheap as reading copies, go ahead and buy them. Otherwise, if you can find out in the digital wasteland ways to read it, do so. Totally worth reading. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Take care, and happy Halloween.